Hi, folks. Chuck here again with another TikTok on the business of writing. I wanted to talk a little bit about self-doubt as an author or as a writer. Obviously, self-doubt is something that affects most people, you know, in their daily lives, but I am making it specifically about the writing here. I am a member of quite a few online groups, mainly on Facebook, that kind of deal with authors, particularly indie authors, supporting other indie authors. And there's a couple of types of posts that I see a lot. One is the whole, I've run out of the motivation to write. What should I be doing? The other, which I've been seeing a lot of recently, goes along the lines of, hey, I've had my book out for a year, maybe in print, maybe up on, Amazon KDP or something like that, and I've sold a copy. Should I just pack it all in? And look, the first thing is we all go through that, authors and others. I'm going through a bit of that myself at the moment, where I'm sort of low key wondering whether it's worth uh, all the time and effort that I put into writing, given that I get often quite scant returns on it. And I'm not just talking about money, I'm talking about other things as well, which I'll get to. I suppose if you're in a similar sort of place with this, if you've lost the motivation to write, or if you're wondering if there's any point writing or publishing or what have you, there's probably no statements or kind of motivational quotes I can give you to get you up and out of the funk. Probably a better thing to do is ask some specific questions of yourself. As far as the motivation goes, the obvious question is what has motivated you in the past? For me, when I get writer's block or when I kind of find myself in a bit of a funk and no ideas, I find just sitting down and writing works the best. There's very little else. If I force myself to sit down and write, after a little while, and it might not be that writing session or even after two writing sessions, but eventually I start powering forward and the ideas start flowing and the writing flows and what have you. So unhelpful as it is, my advice would be to try and recognize what it is that motivates you to write. And we have touched on this in previous TikToks, but not maybe in terms of actually getting out of the funk of having writer's block or something similar. In terms of having self doubt about whether the whole writing thing is worth it, the one question I would suggest everyone asks themselves is, why am I writing? And the answer or answers to that will kind of point you towards, I guess, more information. For example, I don't write for the money, which is a really lucky thing because I don't make a lot of money from my writing. I write because I've got a head full of ideas and because I have an imagination and that's the way I like to exercise it. I always have done. I write because I guess also because a bit of, it's a bit to do with ego. I really like the idea of having products that other people are going to read and and say nice things about. And purely on that basis, I feel like I'm ahead of the game. I do have products that other people read, quite a lot of people, and they do say nice things about them. In fact, almost exclusively, you'll obviously get the occasional person who your writing just doesn't agree with, and that's to be expected. If again, ask yourself why you're doing it. If you're writing purely for the fun of it, it shouldn't matter. I mean, let's face it, it matters a little bit, and it's going to be a source of pride if people are getting into your book, and it's going to hurt a little bit on a personal level if people aren't. But I think it's also worth keeping in mind that it's really hard to get books out there and to find your audience, given that there's so much product out there nowadays. It's like putting out a show on a streaming service and expecting it to be an overnight success when there's 97 other streaming services plus TV plus Blu-rays plus DVDs plus downloads, everything else. And again, this is something I've touched on in previous TikToks regarding just the wealth of stuff that is out there. You're never going to come across everything, and indeed, your perfect readership might be out there, and you're just never going to be able to get in touch with them. I know that doesn't sound great, but that's the reality. So back to the whole issue of should I keep going? Again, if you're writing with the expectation that you're going to be rich and famous, you would be better off getting yourself an agent and becoming an actor doing, walk-on roles on TV. I've been in that position before, and I use that as an example because that also does not pay very well, but it pays a lot better on average than writing does. And of course, some people do make a very great success of their writing, but a lot of that's to do with smart marketing and marketing to a very, very tight budget rather than just advertising everywhere. It also relies often on having quite a few titles available so that someone who picks up a book can then go and enjoy another book of yours pretty much straight away before the lure kind of fades. And ideally, as I've said in a recent TikTok also, having a series or having books that are similar to each other, certainly in genre or in style, that all helps. I think at the end of the day, art for art's sake is always worth it. But then I'm you know, a long time arty farty lefty woke dude. So I'm kind of biased that way anyway. But I still think it stands that art for art's sake is worth it, if only to encourage other people to make art. And ideally, you do make money from it and you do reach a lot of people and touch people and change people's lives through the stuff that you're writing or creating. But it doesn't always happen. I think you've got to come to it with reasonably realistic expectations. Very few writers make it big at all. Very few indie authors make it big. Those that do are writing full time and producing a lot of product. Sometimes someone stumbles onto a great idea, and it's an instant bestseller and it sells at Christmas and what have you. But that's the absolute exception rather than the rule. So again, if you're one of these people who's popped something, out there and it's just not selling, I would say that unless it's costing you money to have it out there, keep it out there and keep writing. Continuing writing will only improve your craft. If, however, again, you're writing specifically to get rich and famous, you'd be better off buying a lotto ticket or, going and getting a high-paying job. Because those things, a high-paying job is at least is a guaranteed income. Writing is not, any more than a lotto ticket. So, yeah, maybe not the most upbeat outlook on this that I could give, but I think it's a realistic one. I think sometimes you've got to get past the ego and the expectation that art will instantly be beloved by everyone, even if it's really good art, because there's so many other things that have to happen: finding your audience, selling it, getting it out there, that it's not going to happen for everyone. But at least if you're doing it for your own enjoyment or the enjoyment of a few, ideally you will get something out of it. So those are the words of wisdom I have for anyone in that boat.